The soft glow of the setting sun filtered through the windows of the tiny Lagos apartment, casting shadows that danced on the walls. Naomi and Tessa sat cross-legged on the threadbare carpet, poring over their law textbooks. They were inseparable, like two sides of the same coin. From the moment they met during their first year at university, an unbreakable bond had formed. Both were 18, filled with dreams of becoming lawyers and changing the world. Their laughter often echoed through the halls, a testament to their resilience in the face of life's challenges. But that evening, as the city's noise hummed in the background, Naomi stared out of the window, her mind elsewhere. Little did she know that this was the beginning of a story that would test their friendship and reshape their lives. University life wasn't glamorous. Naomi and Tessa scraped by on modest allowances from their parents, budgeting every naira for food and school supplies. Late nights were a constant as they crammed for exams, the glow of their desk lamp often the only light in the room. They were determined, though. Success was their shared dream, and they believed that hard work would one day pave their way to a brighter future. Everything changed the day Naomi met David. He was 40, sophisticated, and wealthy, a stark contrast to the boys on campus. David wasn't a student, but his presence around the university was hard to miss. Always impeccably dressed, he often mingled at events or lounged near the law department. He first approached Naomi one afternoon when she was studying in the courtyard. "You're always so focused," David remarked, his deep voice cutting through the hum of conversation. "What's your dream, Naomi?" Startled, Naomi glanced up, meeting his warm, confident gaze. Something about his demeanor disarmed her. Despite her instincts warning her to be cautious, she found herself sharing her aspirations of becoming a lawyer. "That's admirable," David said with a smile. "I could help you. I know people who can make your journey easier. You deserve a life without struggle." His words lingered in Naomi's mind, a tempting escape from her reality. Soon, David began showering her with gifts, luxury handbags, expensive shoes, even a new phone. Their dinners at upscale restaurants felt surreal. Tessa, ever observant, noticed the transformation in her best friend. "Who's behind all these changes, Naomi?" Tessa asked one evening, eyeing Naomi's new designer dress. Naomi looked. "His name's David," Naomi replied, a dreamy smile on her face. "He's been so kind. He wants to help me achieve my dreams." At first, Tessa was happy for Naomi. But as time passed, Naomi spent less time at home and more time with David. The distance between them grew, leaving Tessa feeling forgotten. Then one evening, Naomi burst through the door, her excitement lighting up the room. "Tessa, you won't believe what David just told me. He's hosting a party this weekend, and he wants me to bring you along. He has a friend, Matthew. You might like him." Tessa hesitated, wary of getting entangled in Naomi's new world. But after much persuasion, she agreed, wanting to support her friend. The weekend arrived, and Tessa found herself face to face with Matthew. He was charming and suave, but there was something unsettling about his overconfidence. Like David, he knew exactly how to make her feel special, and soon, Tessa found herself drawn into the allure of his lifestyle. Weeks turned into months, and Naomi and Tessa became regular fixtures in David and Matthew's opulent lives. The men paid their tuition, bought them clothes, and introduced them to a world of extravagance. The girls, who once thrived on ambition and hard work, now skipped lectures and relied on bribery to maintain their grades. Their parents, concerned about their absence during holidays, grew suspicious. But Naomi and Tessa made excuses, unwilling to give up their newfound comfort. Their humble beginnings seemed like a distant memory, replaced by nights at lavish parties and days spent shopping for luxury goods. Yet beneath the surface of their glittering lives, cracks began to form. Naomi and Tessa were too consumed by the allure of wealth to notice the strings attached to the men's generosity. Slowly but surely, David and Matthew tightened their grip on them, demanding more of their time and loyalty. One afternoon, as they sat at a chic cafe, Naomi glanced at her latest gift, a designer handbag. "This is the life I've always dreamed of," she said, her voice tinged with wonder. But Tessa, tracing the rim of her coffee cup, couldn't shake an uneasy feeling. "Naomi, don't you think this is all happening too fast? It's like we're losing ourselves." Naomi dismissed her concerns with a laugh. "Come on, Tessa, this is what we've worked for. A chance to live without struggle. Don't overthink it." And yeah, unbeknownst to them, the choices they were making would lead them down a path filled with betrayal, heartbreak, and a harsh realization of the cost of their new lifestyle. The stage was set, and the world they had embraced so eagerly was about to reveal its dark side. Naomi felt a twinge of envy, but quickly pushed it aside. She couldn't ignore the way Mark's gaze lingered on her, or how her heart skipped a beat every time he showered her with compliments. She was in too deep now. There was no going back. The thrill of this new lifestyle had consumed her, just as it had with Tessa. "Don't you think we're different now?" Naomi asked, setting down her fork. Tessa tilted her head, confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean, look at us. We don't even focus on our studies anymore. It's all about shopping, parties, and living the high life," Naomi replied, her voice tinged with doubt. Tessa shrugged it off with a wave of her hand. "We're still in school, Naomi. We're just enjoying ourselves. Don't you think we deserve this after all we've been through? Besides, we don't need to stress over exams anymore. Money solves everything." Naomi studied her friend, wondering if Tessa had a point. A small voice inside her whispered that something felt wrong, but she quickly silenced it. Just then, Mark sauntered over, flashing his trademark grin that made her heart race. "Ladies, you're both looking stunning today," Mark said smoothly as he slid into the seat next to Naomi. His eyes lingered on her a little too long, making her blush. "Thanks, Mark. John bought me this purse," Tessa said, lifting it proudly. "John has excellent taste," Mark replied with a chuckle. "He knows how to treat a queen. But I have something even better in store for you both this weekend. You deserve an escape, don't you think?" Naomi perked up. "An escape? What do you have in mind?" "How does a bougie sound?" Mark asked, a mischievous twinkle in his eye. "Big parties, endless fun. We'll leave Friday, spend the weekend in luxury, and return after Christmas." Abuja? The capital city? Naomi felt a jolt of excitement, but quickly masked it behind a composed expression. It sounded like the ultimate getaway. A chance to leave behind school, responsibilities in the confines of her old life. "Sounds amazing," Tessa said eagerly. "Count me in." Naomi hesitated, thinking of her parents. They had been calling her repeatedly, urging her to come home for Christmas. She knew they would be upset if they discovered she was skipping the holidays for a frivolous trip. But the thought of returning to their simple village life made her feel suffocated. This was her chance to escape the ordinary. "I'll come up with something to tell my parents," Naomi said, her voice low. Tessa nodded, already caught up in the excitement. "We'll just say it's for school. They won't ask too many questions." The two of them dove into plans, discussing outfits, hairstyles, and all the fun they expected to have. They didn't notice how drastically their lives had shifted, how they were losing sight of their original dreams and values. The simple, driven students they had once been were fading into the background, replaced by girls chasing a glamorous fantasy. But later that night, as Naomi packed her suitcase, a pang of guilt flickered in her chest. She glanced at her phone, where a message from her mother awaited. "Will you make it home this Christmas?" She sighed, her voice barely a whisper. "We'll be fine, won't we? What's the worst that could happen?" Shaking off the uneasy feeling, she focused on packing. She was determined to enjoy this weekend and embrace the life she had always dreamed of. On Friday, the two girls boarded the plane to Abuja, leaving behind their worries and responsibilities. The excitement was palpable as they laughed and chatted, but beneath the surface, a faint unease lingered. Neither of them realized they were stepping into the beginning of a nightmare, one that would change their lives forever. The lights of Abuja dazzled as they arrived in the evening. Everything felt surreal: the opulent hotel, the luxurious rooms, and the breathtaking view from their balcony. John and Mark greeted them warmly, their smiles wide and inviting. "This weekend is all about you two," Mark said smoothly. "Relax, have fun, and forget about everything else." Naomi and Tessa beamed, eager for what was to come. They slipped into their finest outfits and headed to an exclusive nightclub known for its extravagant parties. The music was loud, the energy electric, and every eye in the room seemed to follow the two girls. They felt invincible, swept up in a world they had only dreamed of. Drinks flowed freely, and soon Naomi and Tessa were tipsy, their laughter louder, their inhibitions lower. As the night wore on, however, the mood began to shift. The men who had seemed so charming now carried an unsettling edge. Their words became cryptic, their smiles forced. Naomi noticed it first but dismissed it, not wanting to ruin the night. "Let's move this party somewhere more private," John said suddenly, his tone smooth but firm. Mark nodded, flashing them an overly wide smile. "Trust us, you'll love it." Defending, the girls exchanged hesitant glances, but didn't resist as they were ushered into a sleek car. The city lights faded behind them as the vehicle drove deeper into the outskirts of Abuja. "Where are we going?" Naomi asked, her unease growing. "Somewhere special," Mark replied, his voice calm but cold. The car stopped in front of a dilapidated building that loomed in the darkness. The air felt heavy, and Naomi's heart raced. "What is this place?" Tessa asked, her voice trembling. "Don't worry," John said, his smile now chilling. "It's just the beginning of the fun." Before they could react, the men led them inside, the door slamming shut behind them. The room was dark, damp, and eerily silent. Naomi's instincts screamed at her to run, but it was too late. "Welcome, ladies," a gruff voice said, as shadowy figures emerged from the darkness. The realization hit Naomi like a tidal wave. This wasn't a party, it was a trap. Before Naomi could scream, a sharp pain shot through her arm. She looked down to see a needle and felt her world spiral into darkness. The last thing she heard was Tessa's terrified voice. "Naomi, no!" And then, silence. From somewhere deep in the suffocating darkness, she heard footsteps drawing closer. Naomi's breath hitched as she turned her head toward the sound. A figure stepped into the faint light, and her heart dropped. It was Mark. But he wasn't the man she had once known. His usual easy smile was gone, replaced by a chilling, emotionless expression. His eyes, once warm and inviting, were now hollow, filled with an eerie, unsettling emptiness. "You're awake," Mark said, his voice unnervingly calm. "Good. Well, what is this? What's going on?" Naomi stammered, her voice trembling with fear. Her mind raced for answers, but none came. "Where are we?" "You're safe," Mark replied, a mocking edge to his tone. "For now, but not for long. You and your friend are about to be part of something important. Don't worry, it'll be over quickly." Naomi felt her blood run cold at his words. Something important? She didn't want to know what he meant, but her instincts screamed danger. She tried to scream, but the terror in her chest choked her voice. Everything began to make sense. This wasn't a party, wasn't some grand adventure. It was a carefully laid trap. A sinister, horrifying trap. Naomi's eyes darted around the dimly lit room, searching for any means of escape. but all she saw were shadows, broken furniture, and walls that seemed to close in on her. Mark took another step closer, his movements deliberate and predatory. Naomi's heart pounded wildly as the door creaked open behind him. Several men entered, their faces devoid of kindness or mercy. These weren't the charming figures she and Tessa had trusted. They were something else entirely. "Please," Naomi begged, her voice cracking, "let us go. We didn't do anything wrong. We just wanted to have fun." Mark's lips curled into a twisted smile. "Oh, you're not going anywhere," he said, his tone laced with malice. "You're here to serve a higher purpose. Be grateful." Before Naomi could respond, the sound of more footsteps echoed behind her. She turned her head and saw John step into view. The sight of him, his once kind demeanor now replaced by cold indifference, sent a wave of nausea through her. "I think I'll go to bed," John said. "This was always the plan, Naomi," John said, his voice devoid of emotion. "The gifts, the trips, the parties, it was all part of the setup. You were never meant to have any of it. You were just the bait." Naomi's breath hitched. The words were incomprehensible, yet they rang with a horrifying truth. "Bait?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You used us? You never cared?" John's expression hardened, his gaze piercing. "You were a tool, Naomi, nothing more. And now you'll fulfill your purpose." Tears streamed down Naomi's face. "Please, don't do this," she pleaded. "We don't deserve this. Just let us go." The sound of another door creaking open sent a fresh wave of terror through her. A new figure entered, a man older than the rest, with piercing eyes that seemed to see straight into her soul. Dressed in dark, shadowy clothing, he exuded an aura of authority that froze Naomi in place. "So, you're awake?" the man said, his voice deep and foreboding. He stepped forward, each movement deliberate and menacing. "Good. We've waited long enough. It's time to begin." Naomi's stomach churned as the man's words sank in. She didn't know what "begin" meant, but she was certain it was something unspeakably evil. "Please," she whispered, her voice raw and desperate. "Why are you doing this? We didn't ask for any of this." The older man's eyes glinted with cruel amusement. "You were chosen because you were easy to manipulate. The luxury, the attention, the promises. They made you weak. And now you'll give us what we need. Your life. Your soul." Naomi's body shook as she stared at the man in disbelief. Her heart pounded as his words echoed in her ears, each one a dagger to her spirit. She looked over at Tessa, who was still unconscious, slumped in a chair across the room. The man moved toward a nearby table and picked up a gleaming knife, inspecting its blade with unsettling precision. "You're going to help us complete an ancient ritual," he said, his tone devoid of empathy. "And once it's done, you won't remember any of this. But the price will have been paid." Naomi's mind raced. She had to find a way out, had to save herself and Tessa, but her body was trembling, frozen in fear. She pulled at the ropes binding her hands, but they didn't budge. From the corner of her eye, she saw Tessa begin to stir. Her friend's eyes fluttered open, dazed and confused. "Tessa," Naomi whispered urgently, "wake up. We have to get out of here." But Tessa was too weak to respond. She looked around, her face pale with terror as she tried to make sense of their surroundings. The older man noticed Tessa's movements and stepped toward her, knife in hand. "Not so fast," he muttered, a sinister smile playing on his lips. "Stupid me." Naomi's fear turned to desperation. She couldn't let them harm Tessa. With every ounce of strength, she fought against her restraints. The ropes dug into her skin, but she didn't stop. She couldn't stop. The binding finally gave way, and Naomi lunged to her feet. Without hesitation, she charged at the older man, knocking the knife from his hand. Chaos erupted as the other men shouted in anger, but Naomi didn't look back. She grabbed Tessa's arm and pulled her toward the door. "Come on, Tessa, we have to go," Naomi cried, dragging her friend with all her strength. The two girls stumbled into the night, their hearts pounding as they ran. The distant sound of sirens filled the air, a faint glimmer of hope in the darkness. Naomi refused to let go of Tessa, even as her legs screamed in protest. They had to survive. They had to escape. Finally, they reached a busy street where a passing car screeched to a halt. The driver, a woman with a kind face, rushed out to help them. Naomi collapsed, clutching Tessa tightly as the weight of what they'd endured overwhelmed her. They were alive, but they knew they would never be the same.